And welcome to the inaugural presentation of Oghma's Oratory. I'm Greyheart, and I'm your host. I see we've got what? Okay, I'm getting a bunch of messages from my broadcast software saying, "Hey, okay, we're live." Yeah, I know we're live. So tonight's show is going to be interesting. Mercury is retrograde. I've had one hell of a time getting everything going and trying to get it right. So hopefully nothing interrupts us and we have a nice, smooth show. I have a guest tonight who will hopefully help me get through this thing, and we'll have a good broadcast. So first off, I wanted to dedicate this show to Winterhawk, and the reason I'm doing that is because she is the person who taught me how to do this. She's the one who taught me how about internet radio. She taught me about all of the my get rid of the logos. She taught me about the idea of actually broadcasting. More years than I wanted to admit ago, she had this wild idea to do radio on the internet, and she said, "Hey, Greyheart, how'd you like to come in and help out?" So I did a live show for about an hour, hour and a half each week, and it was interesting. A year or so later, she figured out how to record the stuff. They didn't call it podcasting at the time. Nobody had coined that term yet. It was just simply internet radio. And so she was doing it by herself for several months, and she called me up and said, "Hey, why don't you come and be my guest?" And I did. And it worked out so well. She says, "Well, hey, why don't you just come and be my co-host? It's a lot easier with two people." And that started 10 years of internet radio. She's the one who taught me about uh, things like uh, production value. She taught me how to shoot and how to edit video. She taught me how to do all of the things, production values, all the stuff that goes into a broadcast. She's the one who did this, who taught me how to do it. And so this is this particular show, tonight's show, is dedicated to her because without her, this would not be happening. So I just want to put that out there. So let's go ahead and bring in tonight's guest. I'm going to go ahead and set this up, and I'd like to introduce Autumn. Hey, Autumn, how you doing? I'm fine. It's been a hectic day. It's a good thing I went to see Crystal today to have her massage me, because I would be I would be out of it right now if it weren't for that. Uh, Good. I'm happy to see you. Um, you know, it, in a lot of ways, tonight's show is kind of come full circle, which oddly enough, interestingly enough, was the title of the show that Hawk and I did for on podcasting for 10 years. We started out live, and this is live. As it happens, everybody's going to see it, mistakes and all. So don't let that bother you. um, so, what's been happening in your life? What's going on with Autumn? Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I had completely forgotten about that. Yeah, the people who are watching locally. That's interesting. I wonder why that came up. The people who are watching locally, I'm getting all of these boxes popping up all over the place. Like, wait, what the hell's going on? All the people. Yeah, all of the things that I've never seen before, and will it's like, is that a problem? No, it's not a problem. We're okay. All the people who are watching live, or live, all the people who are watching locally, have the ability to go to the Pals and Traditions Fair on Saturday. This will be my 4th year. I think it's, yeah, they started it 4 years ago, and I have been in attendance every year since, and it's a great way for people who are new to the community to go out and see people who are who've been around the community for a while, get to know who they are, network with people, uh, spend some time and learn who these people are and what they're doing. It's not just covens and groups. It is also things like, well, P&O, I believe, is going to have a table, Pagan Night Out. So the various meetups, I suspect, will be there. But there's also going to be a whole lot of different traditions. I know that last year, really? Can't hear you. That's interesting. Yay for test driving. Well, that's interesting. I can hear you. They can't. Let me see something here. Yeah, I see. Well, yeah, keep. Oh, I'm the one who's on camera. Sorry about that. Let me move back to the dual shot so that they can. I'm trying to edit through this stuff. They can't, and it's like, wait a minute. I know this works. I can hear you fine. That's interesting. I'm just looking to. Yeah, do a Bob Dylan video. Of course, that's interesting. I'm surprised they can't hear you because I would think they can hear my audio because they were listening to the music, and that's coming through my audio. I can hear you fine, so I'm surprised they can't hear you. Interesting. Well, this is the problem with live whatever. You get the mistakes as well. All right, say something real quick, and let's see if they can hear it. If I could just repeat what she says, well, that's no fun. I'm checking to see if it's gonna, it's like a 30-40 second delay between what happens. Nope. Okay. And what they see and what. All right. So go ahead and say something real quick. I'm quickly switching through the various audio sources because I don't know why they can't hear you. Yeah, click typing on the keyboard. Well, this is going to be this is how this show is going to be. I can see it now. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a little weird. I expected that. I never learned how to read lips. Yeah, I haven't learned how to read lips too. That's interesting. I wonder. Let me check. I wonder if that. Well, okay, I can hear myself echo. Ed wants to know if you want to sing a song. Oh, this will let me do them all. Okay, that'll work. Let me see what. Yeah, I know. I'm gonna click on everything and see if that gets your sound, and if it does, we're great. If not, it'll be. That's interesting. What the. Oh, give me a second. That one doesn't want to work. Okay, fine. All right, so no need to be shy. We cannot hear you. That's interesting. I wonder why they can't hear you because it's coming through my system fine, and I figured that it would all be through my system. That's interesting. I wonder. Oh, let me check something here. Oh no, I don't have you muted here because I wouldn't be able to hear you. So that's really weird. All right, well, this is going to be a little more lonely than I expected because we can see her, we just cannot hear her. Great picture though. See, they love the picture. Yay! Well, that's interesting. I wonder. I'm wondering if they can hear this because I just turned on the sound for. I'm curious if they could hear me talking there when I. Could you hear? Well, yeah, it's like 40 seconds. Hi. Okay, Dylan. Now you gotta move the sheets down. You gotta. This is a little weird because I can see what's going on live and I can see what's going on in the stream as it happens, which is delayed by however many seconds, and it's a little weird. Okay, so now they can hear you. We'll just see what happens because. Oh well. Here. This is what I could put up so that everybody knows what's going on. So yeah, well, okay. Yes, Autumn can see the chat, so she can, and in fact, can type back in. So, worst case scenario, um, she can chat back, or you can, I could repeat what she says, most of it anyway. Well, no, I'm worried about you. Well, I guess I shouldn't be worried about you being naughty because you're never naughty. I might have to censor a word here or there. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how that works because they can see what's going on in the chat before they actually see it on the video. So, all right, well, I was going to have this whole discussion about the lotto and the fact that they're going to be picking numbers here in, I don't know, a couple hours, and I'm going to get your impression of, boy, this tape just doesn't want to stick. Your impression of what you thought about using magic to win the lotto and all of that, and play charades. We could play charades. 2 words. Sounds like 2 syllables. First word, 2 syllables. That works. It'll be interesting to see how that works because you'll be answering questions I ask before I ask them as far as everybody else is concerned. That'll be kind of fun. All right, so I'm gonna open up my can of whoop ass here. I'm gonna you talk and get a little dry. So you're not supposed to drink on camera. It's iced tea. Just so you know, it's sweet tea. It's not beer. It looks like a beer can, but it's not. But it'll make things a little bit easier. Worst case scenario, since I can hear you, you and I can have this chat as far as our main topic, and I can relay it a little. The main points. I can kind of reply your question or your comment along with my comment, and maybe that will work a little bit better. This is live TV, folks. Okay, so. Tonight's stream is the topic is rites of passage, and we had most of the people actually in the chat are aware of this topic because we talked about it in the meetup last Friday. And I put up this lower third for the hashtag Pagan Proud, I've got it set up so that as if you tweet out something and you put the hashtag Pagan Proud, my system should pick it up and I can actually display it. So you know it'll be on the show. You can actually be part of the show and actually show up on the video. Um, so anyway, oh, that's why. um, we were having this discussion Friday that about rites of passage, and several things happened actually. Uh, One was that we had this idea that in order for a rite of passage to be a true rite of passage, a couple of things have to happen. One, it has to be a significant event in a person's life, which makes sense. And you know, we were talking about the idea of getting your license when you're 16 and getting to vote when you're 18 and getting to drink when you're 21. These are rites of passage that everybody, at least in this culture, is familiar with. Um, but as pagans, Wiccans, whatever, we also look at other rites of passage, things that the common uh, community, common culture around us does not necessarily uh, know about, understand, or even agree with. And one of the things, aside from the fact that we, you know, uh, uh, the significant event being important, we also discussed the fact that in order for it to be a rite of passage, the person who is going through it has to feel that it is important, that it is significant. It's not just the culture or family or friends around them. The person who actually is doing it has to see it as a significant and possibly life-changing event. With those two things, you get a rite of passage. And I think most of us have discussed or read about the idea of young girls when they come into their menses. That's a rite of passage. You know, it's a physical and very obvious change that this is no longer a young girl; she's now a woman. Um, Boys are not quite the same. There are some physical changes. You know, the beard, the hair on the chest, and things like that. But it's not. Yeah, it's not quite the as same. Yeah. I just got informed in my ear not to go down this rabbit hole, which is yeah, I agree. Um, and yeah, I see people are congratulating Autumn for hanging in there, even though they can't hear her. Um, we can still put her up so you can see her. Well, why not? You know, at least they'll know you're here. My silent partner, everybody, Miss Autumn. It's camera right. It's my left, camera right. So if I look like this, I can actually look like I'm looking at her. um, so what do you think, Autumn? Oh, this is going to be a long hour, isn't it? Yeah, she just agreed it's going to be a long hour. So I'm going to have to, in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have to figure out why the stream isn't hearing you, because that's bad. I was expecting to be able to pick up the sound off my audio, and yeah, yeah, I'm a technical kind of guy. Anyway, so rites of passage. So let's see. Okay, so we're getting feedback from the chat that it's actually helpful to see you, even though they can't hear you. So I'm going to keep you up there just because I can. It's my choice, not yours. Yeah, back on topic. Okay, so question: do we define rites of passage differently as Wiccans, or just have additional ones? Which is a good question. Honestly, I think we define them differently in the fact that most general culture out there, and I can only speak for Americans because that's the culture I grew up in. I don't think that they think of rites of passage at all. I mean, not consciously anyway. They certainly do see them and acknowledge them, but not consciously. Um, we of course do have more rites of passage. We look at things that they don't. I mentioned the one. There's also the rite of croning and saging when you get to a point in your life where you're ready to step back. Not when someone says it's time for you to step back, but when you, as a priest or priestess, are ready to step back and let the next generation, the people you taught, hopefully that you taught, take control and start leading the community and doing all of that. That's certainly something that the culture in general do not do, because let's face it, in our culture, old people are disposable. There are those cultures where they are revered. Asian cultures, Chinese, Japanese, especially come to mind. The elders are not just listened to, but they are respected. It's understood that they have had a longer life. They have had more experience. They've seen it. They've done it. Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. And that is something that we as Americans tend not to do. We used to, at least more so than we do now. I know that my grandparents' generation, well, even my mother's generation, and my mother was older when she had me, but she's of that World War II generation, and she talked about how, you know, growing up in Kansas on a farm, it was the family, and it was an extended family, and it was the entire family took care of all the kids. They helped raise them. When someone passed away, they were brought to the house, and they were left in the house for a couple of days until the funeral, because it was their house. And so a lot of different things that we no longer do in our modern civilized. Civilized. I gotta figure out where the camera cuts off. Civilized society. We don't do that. We don't tend to recognize or listen to our elders in our general American culture. I'd like to see that change. We are now in our, at least in our local community, and I can only speak about our local community because I'm not familiar with what's going on around the country or around the world on this. But we are starting in our local community to actually create elder groups of elders. In fact, both of us are members of the Colorado Elders. In fact, we've got a meeting tomorrow night that we have to attend, with the intent of not laying down the law per se, but simply to be there to answer questions, because we know that there are a lot of people who have questions. Let's see. And Autumn just put into the chat that saging and croning rituals are held at some larger festivals, which is true. Along with rites of passage for age, boyhood and manhood and womanhood rituals. I don't feel like an elder. Is that a reference to Van Halen? I don't feel like an elder. I don't feel tardy. Yeah. I don't feel mute. Yeah. Damn those problems. Anyway, so yeah, this is going to be interesting. Listening to me talk for an hour, another half hour or so. Let's see here. Reading in the chat, some seem to think once you pass 50 you are eligible for croning, yet I don't feel that either. I would agree with you, being over the age of 50. Well, that was actually one of the issues I had, and Autumn is aware of this. When we actually put together the elders group, I was included in, one of the original people to be included in that group, and I'm going, okay, yeah, but I don't think I'm an elder. I don't think I should be part of this because I'm not ready to sage. And granted, not everybody in the group had sage, but they're all older than I was at the time. At the time, I was the youngest, I believe. And I didn't feel like I had the right to join this group. I was happy to help, set it up and do some of the technical stuff, and if they wanted me to, and do what I could to get it off the ground. But I didn't feel like I really belonged to this group because I wasn't a sage. And really, what came out of that was a lot of discussions with various people, elders and other people I know. And what came out of it was, well, just because you're an elder doesn't make you old. An elder, for me, what I kept hearing from all sorts of, well, and I got to admit, even at my meetup, there were certain people who kept introducing me as an elder of the community. I'm going, no, I'm not an elder. I'm not an elder. I'm just a priest. I'm just this guy. But I have been in this community for a very long time, and really, by talking to various people, what I got from it was that because I've been in the community as long as I have, and Autumn has been in the community, she had a hiatus for 11 years, but she's been in the community nearly as long as I have. But by virtue of having been in the community, people know who we are. People have seen us. They've seen what we've done. They've seen the things that we have coordinated, and they look at us as leaders in the community and have for many years. And so we are elders of the community by the very virtue of having been here for so long. Let's see, looking at the chat here. You know, sometimes time doesn't bring wisdom; it just brings old age. This is true. I'm looking at this other one above it, Phoenix Encoded. Just what's an elder supposed to feel like? uh, you know, and that's the first half. To this person, an elder means you have gained wisdom and knowledge from life's experiences. I would go with that. I certainly know that I am not the same person I was 30 years ago when I started this. I've learned quite a lot. I doesn't mean I don't make mistakes, but I have learned quite a lot. Good question. So what she just said was, since you can't hear her, is she wanted to know, is it required, or should it be a part of, to have uh, a ritual to denote that you have now become a sage or a crone? And yeah, yeah, we're both curious to see what the people in the chat have to say about that, because um, I, I know what I think, and I'll go ahead and tell you while you guys think about it and type up what you guys think. But to me, a rite of passage. Let me see if I can phrase this right. And I may change my mind before the end of the show. We'll see. We'll see what people say. But to me, at this point, all rites of passage are initiations, but not all initiations are rites of passage. Now, that may change by the end of the show. We'll see what people have to say. And so, that being said, my belief on initiations is that it's not the ritual that is uh, the point of change. The ritual is simply an acknowledgement that you've gone through the change, and so the same thing would be true of a rite of passage. You've already gone through this change. The rite of passage is simply an acknowledgement by the people around you, your friends, your family, your community, that you have gone through this change and you are no longer the person you were. You're now this new person. Let's see here. Yeah, yeah. All right, so in chat, Lydia is saying that. Let me go ahead and. She says, I don't know that I feel it's necessary, but there are others that need that ceremony to feel the passage is complete. And I mean, I agree with that. I just because I don't necessarily believe that the ritual is required, is necessary, doesn't mean that I don't think it's a good thing. What I'm saying is it's kind of like having a birthday. It's a lot more fun to have a party. You don't it's not required to have a party to become a year older, but it certainly makes things a lot more fun, a lot more interesting, a lot more memorable. And so I think that that is something that it's something that the community or the people in the community do for this person who has gone through whatever this rite of passage is, to acknowledge to this person and everybody else in the community that they have made this change. Let's see here. Okay, and so what Autumn's saying is a question is that mean that the rite of passage is for the individual or for the community? And my answer to that would be it's for both. The individual hopefully gets the acknowledgement that yes, things have changed. I'm different, and the community hopefully gets yes, this person is now different in some way, and should be treated differently as well. Whether that is a coming of age rite of passage where they're no longer considered a child, they're now an adult, and therefore taking on not necessarily all the responsibilities of an adult, but certainly more so than they were, or whether it's a saging or croning ritual, in which case, okay, we as a community expect them to start stepping back from what they were doing. They may have been a huge leader in the community and organized all sorts of stuff, and now we kind of expect them to step back and let others do that. They've shown us the way. They've given us the blueprint. They have they've been doing whatever they've been doing for so many years, and now they've taught us or someone how they did it, and now it's time for someone else to take it on and make it their own. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So other types other rites of passage other than croning and saging. Um, I, well, I mean, okay. So for example, why wouldn't a person who has attained, for example, um, who's gone through their year and a day and is now no longer a dedicant, but is now has learned the knowledge and has shown the ability to lead a ritual. Why wouldn't they have a rite of passage that they are now a priest or a priestess, a first degree, if you follow that? Yeah, and I know most people don't, but or at least it seems like most solitaries don't. I won't say that most people don't, but it seems like most solitaries do not have a degree system because it's just them. There's no need for a degree. As a solitary, I do what I do. But within the community, and certainly within a coven or working group, I would expect that there would be some sort of a ritual celebration that says, "Hey, this person has done their work. They have learned what we as the coven or group expect them to, in order for us to acknowledge them as a first degree or priest or priestess." That's something that we would do. That the general community, the general culture wouldn't do, because most people aren't priests or priestesses. Um, and yeah, Lydia was asking in the chat if marriage would be a rite of passage, or marriage or hand fasting. Absolutely. That is a rite of passage, as is having a child, or whether it's the first, second, fifth, whatever. Having a child is a rite of passage. Certainly for the mother, because she's gone through the process of creating life. The father has too, in a different way, and he's certainly, hopefully, going to help in raising that child, and that's part of their life. So it would be a rite of passage for the couple. And so absolutely, having children, getting married, hand fasted, whatever, and again, assuming that these are events that the people who are going through them find significant, uh, these would be rites of passage and should be celebrated. And we do celebrate them. We celebrate throughout our culture. We celebrate marriages. We celebrate the birth of a child, typically with a wedding shower. When I was a kid, wedding showers were women only. It was called, we men thought of it as a what did they call it, a hen party. Now it's couple showers, yes, and the father to be is included and given gifts as well, and so and his friends are invited. This is I think is a really good change in our general culture, because I can't imagine my father ever having or wanting to have a baby shower. I have no doubt that when my mother was pregnant with me and she had her wedding shower, I think actually I want to say that friends of hers where she worked put the wedding shower together. So my dad was, I don't know, he was probably working rather than go to the baby shower. That was a woman's thing. Other rites of passage: Saturn returns, turning 21 in our society. Buying a first home. That's actually a really good one. Or even if it's not a first home, let's say, for example, and I'll put this out there. I bought my first house. God, it's been 16 years ago. It was right around 2000. The worst time possible to buy a house. I bought a house. It was a little townhouse, and because of the economy and things, I ended up losing my job and lost the house. When I was able to get a stable job again, because I spent 10 years working contracts, and I would work for 6 months or a year, and I'd be off for 4 to 6, 8 months between jobs. So I couldn't afford, I could barely afford rent. Once I got a stable job, I bought the house I have now, and absolutely, that's a rite of passage. It was important to me. I wanted to have an actual single family, where I owned all four walls, and there was nobody on the other side of any of them. That was important to me. So absolutely, that was a rite of passage. Um, Naming rituals. And that's not something I see too often in the more Wiccan community, but I have seen something like that in the heathen community, in the local heathen community. If I remember correctly, I don't know. I'm fairly certain Magni did, but I know that a member of his kin waited. I want to say 9 days after the birth of their child to actually. I mean, they put a name on the birth certificate because it's required, but they gave the actual what Wiccans will call a craft name, their true name. They waited 9 days to give the child that, and originally, as was explained to us who were there at the naming ceremony, the reason was because in the old days, infant mortality was so high, the child might not live more than 24 hours. And so why name something that's not going to, not going to survive? So After a while, they would, okay, obviously the child has survived. This is a good thing. Let's give him a name. you know, but that's the way it was. So yeah, a naming ceremony would be a rite of passage, I believe, if it was important to the parents. Yes, it happens different times, different traditions. That's correct. Right. Okay. I've it's interesting because the well, the one Wiccaning I was actually part of was at Dragonfest many years ago, and it was not a year and a day after the birth. It was simply that the child was there and had been born a couple of months previous, and they wanted to do a Wiccaning at Dragonfest so everybody could participate. Um, what Autumn was talking about was a year and a day after the child's born, you have a Wiccaning, and I was not familiar with the year and a day part of it. That's new to me, but yeah, yes, every tradition is different. But that's an interesting thought. A year and a day after the child is born, you could have a Wiccaning where you present the baby with a magical name, whether it's a craft name or not, but a magical name, a name that they will be known by within the community. That I think that's a fantastic idea. Okay. Yes. The Yeah. Okay. The adults gather together like a village. Okay. All right. And I'll tell you what that reminds me of. So let me repeat what she said. Everybody, the village gathers together and gives good wishes to the child after a certain amount of time, whether that be a year and a day or whatever. And as soon as you said that, the thing that flashed across my mind was Sleeping Beauty, the fairies coming to give. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, coming to give the child their best wishes. And I absolutely, um, we know that used to happen. After all, we have that story of Sleeping Beauty. That was the whole point. The people coming to give good wishes to the newborn, to the new child, to the new princess. But it happened on all levels of culture, and it certainly would have happened within individual villages. The time frame of when that would vary depending on the culture and the people who what kind of environment they were in. I would expect it to be a much longer time frame for the northern people, the Norse and such, where it's a much harsher climate than it would be down, say, in Italy and Rome, where it's much warmer and much more tolerable. The child would not necessarily have a better chance of surviving disease, but certainly would not have to worry about cold and exposure and things like they would up north. Um, yeah, Lydia's saying she misses the days when people weren't afraid to talk to their neighbors, and that's also something that has gone away. I can tell you right now, I know my neighbor to the northwest. I don't have one on the other side, but he's a cool guy. He actually, because we do rituals in my backyard from time to time, and he'll come out and watch. And in fact, he actually knows is good friends with a guy who has been known to come to my meetup, which I didn't know until much later. But he's the only neighbor I really know. I've got neighbors across the street. One family, I see them come and go all the time. I have no idea who they are. I've never talked to them. I'm sorry, I'm digressing from the topic, but yeah, I mean, I'm taking from chat. What can I say? Um, okay, so one of the people took a new pagan name. One of the people in chat took a new pagan name, and she's saying that it was absolutely an important event in her life, and I would agree with that, especially. Right, right, yeah, and a lot of times these do happen during initiation rituals and or dedication rituals, where a person has either been studying for a time and has reached a first degree level of priest or priestess, or they have learned enough about this path that they have decided they want to dedicate themselves and their lives to this path, and therefore, in an informed way, with their eyes open, they go through an initiation and dedicate themselves, or they have spent the time to learn, and they take a name that they will be known by within the community, or at least within the group that they are practicing with. There are a lot of groups where they'll have a private name that's known only by the coven or the group, and a public name that everybody knows. And I've worked with groups like that before. Um, and then there are other groups that, this is going to be the name that everybody knows me by, whether it's in this coven or if it's in the publicly. Correct. Yeah. Naming rituals are a rite of passage, whether it happens singularly or as part of another ritual. I'm just kind of glancing at at the chat. The chat's actually taking off really well. I'm really happy to see this. Um, right. All right. Okay. So yeah, initiations, for example, because they are different based on the tradition. I know that uh, my students, my personal students, after they go through a year and a day, and it may be more than a year and a day, it may be less than a year and a day, once they finish the curriculum that I've set, um, I consider them to be a priest or priestess of the first degree. And I try, and every initiation is different. Everyone is individualized to that person as best I can, because I wanted to make it a personal event for them. Um, I suspect, I don't know. I've never been to an initiation of another coven or another group, so I don't know. But I would assume that other covens and other groups do the same thing. I would expect that they personalize, or at least have a section where it's personalized for that person who's going through the initiation. Right, right, to make it a transformative experience for that person. Absolutely. A lot of times, an initiation will consist of some sort of a rebirth. I'm trying to trying to think of the name. The word starts with an M. No, it's not morphic, but yeah, metaphoric. It's a metaphoric rebirth. It's not an actual rebirth. And I've heard of people using blankets and such to wrap the person in, and they have to struggle out of these this cocoon like thing, and it is a rebirth type of experience. Um, Others are not quite so formal. It can be a whole lot of stuff. Again, if you customize it to the person, everyone's going to be different and unique. And I tend to treat my initiations, the ones I do, as a mystery. Only the people who were there will talk about it, because they're the only ones who were uh, um, privy to the mystery. Um, because I like mysteries. What can I say? I think mysteries are a piece that has been missing, and those can also be rites of passage. The mysteries, having attended and gone through and learned the mystery. I think that if it is a significant mystery, if it gives a person answers that they didn't have, or gives them knowledge that they didn't have before, I think that can be a rite of passage as well. Yeah, every path and tradition does initiations and dedications differently. I can only talk about what I've experienced. I can guess, but that's usually a bad idea. Um, um, uh, it's interesting. Yeah, my alarm clock is talking to me. It heard my voice and decided I must be trying to get its attention. Um, Come in, please. Uh, but I am kind of using my projected voice, so it tends to travel. Hopefully, everybody can hear me well. Didn't check that, but I guess we're okay there. But anyway, yeah, dedications, initiations. I don't know. Your question was, should we go, farther into it? I don't know. I don't know unless you've got something you're thinking of specifically. I don't know that there's anything more I can add to that. Um, Yeah, I absolutely agree that each time you reach a another level, whether it's a second or third degree or whatever somebody may call it, whatever the tradition may call it, I absolutely think that is not only an initiation, but it's also a rite of passage, because I would assume that the person who has spent the time and effort to achieve that higher degree, it's going to be significant to them. Absolutely. In fact, one of the things that kind of reminds me, Toby, who was at one time Winterhawk's significant other. Uh, I was at their house at the time. They were living together, and she was talking about. Got to readjust the earbuds so they don't fall out. She was talking about her priest, who had he came over and was so excited because he said I've just reached my second degree, and she looked at him and said, that's great, what did you have to give up? And he started this whole litany of things that, well, it cost me this, and these are actual physical things that it cost him, as well as more spiritual things. Because it is a process of transformation, and as you transform, you find that some of the things that you needed earlier, that that were important to you, are no longer important. You no longer need them. That's the transformation aspect of it. You don't need all the things you used to have. You only keep the things you still need, that are still required for your journey, and you get rid of those things that are no longer needed, or are holding you back. No, it's not always, but yeah, you're right. It's often required. I think more likely than not, you're going to end up. If you think back on it, you're probably going to find several things that that were used to be important to you, that you no longer need, that are no longer important to you for one reason or another. It may not have anything directly to do with your spirituality or your spiritual path, but it may be that because your spiritual growth caused you to change, you find that what was once important to you is no longer that important to you, even though it has nothing directly to do with that spiritual path. Because you know we don't, uh, my opinion, we shouldn't um, be once a month go to full moon pagans. You know, we should be living our craft, and so yeah, Samhain and Beltane pagans. Yeah, Samhain, Beltane, and Yule pagans. Yeah, that's not a good idea. I think that we should be living our craft, which means that everything you do is a spiritual act, and so things that are not directly related to your craft or your path are going to have your path or craft can have an impact on them, because we live our craft, we live our spirituality. So I could see where things that wouldn't necessarily at first glance appear to have anything to do with what you're doing spiritually, all of a sudden you look back and you think about it, it's like, oh wait, yeah, that actually makes sense because I did this changed, and because these changed, I no longer need this, which has nothing to do. I swapped jobs because I became a second degree priest because, well, I did this and this and this, and these became important to me and this became less important to me, and I found I wasn't happy at my job. I wanted to go do something else. So while it has no direct correlation to being pagan, because of the change that I went through, I changed jobs. I mean, that would be an example. Yeah, yeah. The gods work in mysterious ways. Absolutely, and they cause change. I'm a big believer that they will thump you in the back of the head when you need it. Um, Unfortunately, my experience has been that when you need it, it's because you have gone so far off where you should be, off your path, that you need to be hit to get back on. But yes, otherwise, I think they tend to be more of a point you in the right direction. I'm not going to tell you to do, what to do. I'm going to simply say if you go this direction, you might be happier. That's kind of the way I look at the guidance I've seen and have gotten from the gods. And again, I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for anybody else. I really wish they could hear you, because this would be so much better conversation if they could hear you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You feel like you're smile and nod, smile and nod. You are the sexy witch to make this show more popular. There, yeah, that's exactly how that works. I don't think you let anybody down. I honestly don't. We're coming up on an hour here. We're almost done with an hour, and as I told you, if I can get an hour out of this, I'll be happy. I found a glitch I got to work on. We'll figure that out before the next show, so that everybody can hear who I'm talking to, and we will, if you're willing, we'll certainly have you back on in a more active participatory role other than smiling and looking beautiful, and answering in chat and stuff. Yeah, yeah. You're helping there. It'll be curious to see. I'll go back and we can and look at this recorded stream and see how bad it looks. I am definitely my own worst critic, but I absolutely do too. I know I'm going to repeat that just so everybody hears it. Yeah, we both appreciate all the people who are watching and have been chatting in the chat, because the chat. While I've been busy pontificating, I know that Autumn has been watching the chat, has been answering the chat, and she's been bringing the chat questions to my attention. One of the things I had planned to do with both of us talking was be able to have both of us take part in the conversation. That would give, while she was talking, it would give me a chance to look through the chat, see questions, comments, and then come back when she finished and actually make a comment based on the chat. Because I've been so busy, because I've had to be so busy talking, because poor pitiful me, it's such a horrible thing for me to. It's so hard to talk. It's so hard for me to make conversation, and anybody who knows me knows what bullshit that is. But I have to thank you. Having you here actually did make things a lot easier, because you were able to feed me things in my ear that nobody else could hear. Unfortunately, you were a very good girl. Yes, you didn't say anything naughty. Um, Much to my chagrin, yes. Um, but it'll be interesting to see if anybody heard that little chime go off, because Um, yeah, I got to figure out what's going on with the sound, because once I can get that going, it will make things much more livelier. And when I do, if you're willing, I want to have you back so we can have an actual conversation next time, because my hope is to get this set up so that I can have several people on at the same time. Tip it down just a little. Oh, thank you. Yeah, put it closer to the camera. There you go. There you go. There you go. There's a thank you. It's a thank you from Autumn. Yay! Here, let me put you full screen here so that there we go. So hold it. No, go put it back. There you go. There. Now they can see it. That way they can up just a little bit. You're done. Okay, fine. You're done. Fun with TV. If you, huh? What? all of a sudden, your voice cut out. There's no 7-second delay here. It's a 40-second delay, but I can't do it. We should say goodnight and like Jiminy Cricket. It's even handwritten. So they like your note. I do seriously want to thank everybody who showed up for this inaugural transmission, this broadcast. We got a whole 5 people watching, but they were active in chat, and that's the important thing. We got people to yes, absolutely, it was a test drive, and so and I have no doubt. I think the people who showed up and were in chat had a great time, and I think that means that they'll hopefully be back, and we'll pick up more people as we go, and well, I was gonna say, Silent Autumn, sister of Silent Bob. I was gonna say. The last broadcast that I had anything to do with, Full Circle, by the time it finished, granted it was 10 years, but by the time it finished, we were syndicated on over-the-air radio in California, and we were getting 6 million hits a month on the website. So anything's possible. We start out with 5 people watching and 1 person as a guest, and who knows, this could be huge. Silent Autumn could be hopefully not too silent, but you never know. So you never know. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and let's see here. I'm gonna see about ending this transmission, and I didn't put an end of show card together. I'll have to do that for the next show. So we're just gonna go ahead and just disappear. Is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and blank everything out, and everybody have a wonderful night. Thank you for watching. Thank you for participating, and blessed be.